my name is Gwen Gibson. I'm a registered nutritional therapist and I specialize in gut health. Today I'm making the second video as part of a series that I'm making as a guest for Arrogate Organics. And today I will be talking to you about the food that you can include in your diet in order to nourish the bacteria that live in your gut. But before I talk about this, I first of all wanted to give you a couple of tips in order to facilitate digestion. So digestion is basically the breakdown of food and will allow you to absorb the food that you're eating properly. Number one, my first tip is to try to eat in a calm environment and mindfully. I'm sure you've been told that before, but I'm just going to explain to you why. The reason being is because you want to be in what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest. And it means that before you even start eating food, your body will start producing stomach acid and digestive juices. If you are, for instance, if you were to be in what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, you won't be producing as much stomach acid and you probably end up an hour or two after with some sort of symptoms such as indigestion or feeling bloated. So your body can't do both together. So my advice to you if you're feeling stressed is probably not to eat. Go for a little walk or speak with a friend before you start eating food. Number two tip, so I've mentioned about digestive juices and how important they are to break down the food and to avoid any kind of discomfort later on. And in order to facilitate what we call stomach acid, so the role of stomach acid is to break down the food you're eating, but it's also to emulsify the food and remove any pathogens that is on the food that shouldn't be entering your small and your large intestine. So really, really important. It sterilizes the food basically. So what you could do, a good tip in order to, so a lot of people actually are not producing enough stomach acid. And the reason being is because when you stress, you suppress the production of stomach acid. And the stomach acid will then help trigger other digestive enzymes further down your digestive tract. So really, really important. So in order to help you to produce a little bit more stomach acid, I always recommend to eat a bit of bitter food. So bitter food would be your rocket, your watercress, and your chicory. You could also add a little bit of apple vinegar to your salad, and that will help your body to start producing stomach acid. So tip number two. Number three is to leave 12 hours between your dinner and your breakfast. So what it will happen during this time, you give enough time for your gut to replenish and be able to absorb better the food later on. So just try, for example, that means if you finish eating at 7 o'clock in the evening time, don't eat breakfast until 7 o'clock the following morning. You could even extend it to a 14 hours fast, so not eat until 9 o'clock. So tip number three. Now, let's move on to foods that are good for your microbiome. So what is important when and I mentioned this a little bit in the first video, is diversity. So the most diverse your diet is in terms of plant-based, the most diversity of bacteria you will get, and the healthier, the more of a chance you have to be healthy, because diverse gut bacteria equal health. So you need to try and not eat all the time. So example, if you're having porridge in the morning and you're having blueberry one day, try to have blackberry another day. And then pomegranate, just if you enjoy almond, just try to have some pecan nuts. Or another good tip would be to change the color. So for example, if you enjoying red apple, try to maybe some days have green apples, or red carrots, just have to have purple carrots. Or there's an awful lot, tomatoes, red tomatoes, just have yellow tomatoes. So change the color and vary like this. Number two tip, so diversity. And number two tip is to increase the amount of fiber in your diet. So the recommended guideline for the UK is 30 grams per day. And at the minute, we are averaging at 17 grams. So my biggest tip in order to increase fiber, so fiber is in whole grain, nuts and seeds, pulses, chickpeas, beans, and fruit and vegetables, obviously. So the biggest way you can increase your fiber in your diet is maybe to replace your cereals in the morning with some sourdough. We're coming to winter, so that's a good one to do. What you could do as well is increase the amount of beans that you have in your diet. Just do some curry. So if you're making soup, maybe just add a handful of mixed beans. Maybe you could make some hummus with chickpeas. Beans are full of fiber. Another good one would be nuts and seeds. So just to, instead of snacking on chocolate bar in the afternoon, just try and snack on a handful of nuts and a pear, for example. A pear are quite high in fiber. There's 4 grams of fiber in a pear. So tip number 2, increase your fiber intake. Tip number 3 is try and eat as much as possible prebiotic foods. So prebiotic foods feed the live bacteria that live in your gut. And all prebiotic foods are fibers, but not all fibers are prebiotic. So not all fiber reach your large intestine. This is where your live bacteria live, intact, so that they can feed on them. So the most common ones would be your onions. So they have been proven to kind of feed your gut bacteria. So onions, leek, garlic, the black beans again, chickpeas, the lentils, and the artichokes. So try to have as much of these in your diet and try and rotate. There's some more, but I'm just giving you the one that you'll find easily in your supermarket. So I think it's tip number 4, try to include probiotics in your diet. So what are probiotics? Probiotics, usually they come in the form of supplements, and they are live bacteria. But what I wanted to talk to you is about the equivalent in food, which is fermented food. So fermented food will come in the form of sauerkraut, kefir, so that's a fermented milk, unpasteurized cheese. So have a look at the back of the packet and make sure that the milk is made with unpasteurized cheese. So you've got the Spanish one, which is called Manchego. You've got the Conte, you've got the Gruyere, but make sure again it's made with unpasteurized cheese. Any other thing you could find is miso. It's made with the beans, the soya beans, and yogurt, live yogurt as well. So make sure it's live yogurt. And if you look at the back, you will see Lactobacillus, Bifidobacterium, and those are the live bacteria. Okay. Then number 5 is polyphenols. So you may have heard about polyphenols, and polyphenols is a compound on some bright colored fruit and vegetables. And polyphenols are really important because around 90% of polyphenols are not digested again and reach the large intestine intact, where the gut bacteria can play with these and produce compounds that are anti-inflammatory. So reduce the all inflammation in your body. Anything that can reduce inflammation is good. So some examples of those would be, there's a lot in spices like cinnamon, cloves, dark chocolate, 70% and above dark chocolate, cocoa powder, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, pecan nut, hazelnut, pomegranates, and rosemary, thyme, and blueberries. So quite a lot of nice food here. Coffee as well, and green tea. So just try to include these as well, because they're really good, and they will help to nourish and help your gut microbiome to thrive and flourish. One last tip. If you wanted to do a diversity challenge, so you try to achieve 30 different plant-based food in a week, just go on to my website, gwengibson.co.uk, and download my handout about a diversity challenge. I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.